Avatar: The Last Airbender was recently put on Netflix and has seen many old fans, including myself, revisiting the show. I was an enormous fan of The Last Airbender when it was airing, and it's still kind of hard to believe that the show ended 12 years ago. And on my rewatch, I discovered that this show holds up so much better than I thought it would, and it remains one of the few children's shows that is just as entertaining for adults because it integrates real life problems and politics, philosophies, etc. So I wanted to do something special, and this is a hard list to make, but I narrowed down what I think are the 5 best episodes of The Last Airbender. And here they are. Number 5, The Blind Bandit. This Season 2 episode sees Aang still trying to find an earthbending teacher, and finally finding one when the gang attends an earthbending sporting event. The event starts off with traditionally stereotypical WWE type characters, even featuring one called the Boulder based off of The Rock, and ends with the introduction of one of the best characters in the series, Toph. A tiny, blind 12-year-old girl who proves that she's more in tune with earthbending than anyone else, and is shown in incredibly entertaining action. This episode sees Aang trying to convince Toph and her family that she should be his teacher, only for her parents to turn them away, eventually forcing her to prove to them that she isn't a fragile child, and joining the group. This is easily one of the most fun episodes in the show, along with being visually captivating, and showing that earthbending is probably one of the most creative forms of bending in The Last Airbender, with some incredibly dynamic visuals. Number 4, The Storm. This mid-season 1 episode sees the main group take shelter from a huge storm, while Zuko's pursuit party follows suit. This gives the show time to slow down and finally provide plenty of backstory for both Aang and Zuko, deepening the audience's understanding of their characters and their motivations. We see the reason Zuko was banished and how he got his scar from his own father, helping us understand why he is so desperate in his plight to find the Avatar and why Iroh is so protective of him. We also see why Aang ran away and was accidentally encapsulated in the iceberg, letting us know that he is carrying an incredibly heavy burden of guilt, knowing that he abandoned his people when he was supposed to face his responsibilities. This is a great character-driven episode and helps the audience become more invested in the story. Number 3, The Siege of the North. This 2-part Season 1 finale sees Commander Zhao's forces raid the Northern Water Tribe in an effort to capture the Avatar and seize more control of the world. In this episode, Aang tries to find a way to help save the Water Tribe by entering the spirit world with the help of Avatar Roku and confronting a face-stealing spirit who will give him answers. This also sees Katara become a master at waterbending and Sokka becoming endeared to Princess Yue. Zuko sets off on an ill-planned attempt to capture Aang and almost succeeds, but doesn't get far due to a lack of forethought. This episode also shows us just how powerful the spirits in the Avatar universe are, with the death of one of the moon spirits completely draining Waterbender's powers, and ends with the most powerful example seen yet of the Avatar state, when Aang becomes a giant spirit and completely wipes out Zhao and his army. This episode is not only a satisfying conclusion to the first season, but also deepens the lore of the Avatar universe. Number 2, Zuko Alone. After Zuko and Iroh are betrayed by the Fire Nation, Zuko believes he needs to go his own way and leaves his uncle. This episode is purely about Zuko and his past with his family, taking inspiration from old westerns and Japanese movies, specifically Yojimbo. Zuko is a lone stranger who comes across an Earth Nation town, being oppressed by a small military faction. He befriends a family and learns that his life is similar to theirs when it comes to loss. This episode not only deepens Zuko's understanding of the world and the way it functions, but also clues the audience in on how his childhood formed him. In that, at the end of the day, he actually does have a good heart despite being a villain for the majority of the show. It also gives us one of our only looks at Zuko and Asula's mother in the series. It even ends on a more melancholy and realistic note, When Zuko confronts and disbands the soldiers, he uses firebending, causing the family in the town to turn on him, becoming yet another example of this children's show tackling social political issues and prejudices in an intelligent way without being preachy. And before I get to number one, I wanted to share a couple of my honorable mentions. Here are my honorable mentions.
Need a hand, old friend?
Sozin?
There's not a moment to waste.
And number one, Sozins Comment. In a way, this is kind of cheating because this is a 4-part episode. However, the series finale captures every aspect of what makes the show great and incorporates it into Sozins Comment. This starts out right before the arrival of Sozins Comment and sees Aang struggle to comprehend having to fight Fire Lord Ozai to the death to stop him, especially after Zuko tells him and the group that Ozai needs to be stopped before or during the comet because he will literally burn the Earth Nation to the ground. During the climactic sequence with the comet arriving and giving firebenders more power than they've ever had, several characters fight for survival while showing what makes them so human and realistic and why we've come to love these characters. Iroh helps liberate Ba Sing Se with the White Lotus clan. Zuko takes a lethal shot of lightning from his sister to protect Katara. Katara outsmarts a more powerful enemy with better technique in fighting Azula. And Sokka proves his bravery once again by taking on an entire fleet in what is practically a suicide mission with Toph and Suki by his side. And Aang finally confronts Phoenix King Ozai. This is the fight that the entire series has led up to, and it does not disappoint. While not only being visually amazing to watch, it also shows an insane power dynamic when it comes to the Avatar state. It shows us power that is on a completely different scale from what we've seen in the entire series before now. For the first half of the fight, Aang is backpedaling, barely holding his own, until he is forced into the Avatar state. And once this happens, the tables churn in an incredibly cathartic way. The next action sequence sees Ozai running in fear from Aang until he is caught. Once he is caught, Aang makes the decision to go against all the advice he has received and lets Ozai live, while instead taking his bending away. Considering this is a kids' show and an execution might have been a little too heavy-handed to end the show on, it shows why The Last Airbender is so brilliant. It sends a message to audiences that you should always choose to do good even when evil is necessary. And that having a morality battle within yourself is necessary to see clearly. And due to this message that it sends at the end of this wisdom in choosing good is why I chose Sozins Comment as the best episode of The Last Airbender. And, in my opinion, is still one of the best series finales of all time. Now, what did you guys think of my list? Did you agree with it? Did you disagree with it? Let me know what your favorite episodes of The Last Airbender are, and I'll be back with another video.